as COVID-19 cases continue to rise, government faces the difficult balancing act of managing the virus whilst at the same time resuming economic activity. But government's sometimes confusing and even contradictory statements over lockdown regulations have raised questions about the unity of those in charge. The head of Wits School of Governance, that's Professor Mzukisi Qobo, says President Cyril Ramaphosa should strongly consider reshuffling his cabinet to restore confidence in a time of uncertainty. So, should he? The professor joins me now via Skype from Centurion. Prof, good morning to you. Before we talk about your controversial suggestions, I want to start with this question, and I mean this in the nicest possible way. I have parents who will find any excuse to go to a church gathering, and I'm wondering how many other people are like that in this country. The simple question I'm putting to you is, with the latest decision on church gatherings, where is the national conversation likely to go on the leadership of the president and in particular his authority over COVID-19?
Thank you, Koli. I think government makes these regulations after they have received advice from experts. There is the advisory council, but we've seen also that some members of the advisory council complain that they are not sufficiently consulted on the regulations. Now, the question you ask about the elderly who may go to church, I think people should bear in mind that one of the things that the president said was that infections are going to spike in the coming months, and that this is individuals are expected to take risk measures. It doesn't mean that when we go to level 3 and later 2 or 1, if we do, the virus would have gone, or that we would have found the infection. So I think, the vaccine. So there's the trade-off between economic activity and some of the activities that groups such as churches consider essential, and the need to curb the spread of the infection. So I think the president made a judgment on the basis that individuals are going to take necessary measures, to safeguard themselves.
And that's a very big gamble, Prof, about people being able to exercise self-control. But nonetheless, let's get straight into your article that you wrote on Tuesday about your argument that says the president should strongly consider reshuffling his cabinet if he is to restore public confidence. First and foremost, who should he fire and why?
It's not about specific individuals. The point really is that when you put together a cabinet, it is for a certain to look at certain set of circumstances that you want them to respond to. Now, the cabinet we have currently was appointed before we even knew that there was going to be a crisis. They may not be suited for crisis times. It is fine for a leader to make mid-course adjustment, especially if the team that you are working with is fractious, as we've seen, for an example, at the when the first regulations were promulgated, some of the ministers, including Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, in fact, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma in the main contradicted the president. We had the Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Ibrahim Patel, who issued regulations that were so complex and so confusing to the consumers that it elicited a negative response from the public, and the president came back to clarify. You don't need that kind of leadership in a time of crisis.
Let me jump in there, Prof, and I'm sorry to cut in the interest of time. And it's interesting that you pick these two, in particular, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. Your line of thinking, Prof, assumes that the president over time that he's been in charge, has in some way gained enough political sway in the ANC for him to pull such a decision of a cabinet reshuffle? Some are going to argue, has he?
Now, the problem with that question, Koli, is that as citizens, we shouldn't care about what the ANC thinks about how to manage a crisis. This is the state. There's the party in Luthuli House. The president should act in the best interest of society, even staring down his party in a time of crisis. We want a president that is decisive and that carries authority, because he makes a social contract with the citizens, and the citizens give him his confidence in the understanding that he exercises judgment, not in the interest of factions in the ANC, but in the interest of the country.
Professor Mzukisi Qobo, thank you so much for your time and very interesting article.